Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us for our webinar, COVID-19 Economic Resources Available from the State of Maryland, presented by Ashley Duckman, Vice President of Government Affairs, Maryland Chamber of Commerce, Secretary Kelly Scholes, Maryland Department of Commerce, Michael Harrison, Policy Director, Office of the Secretary, Maryland Department of Labor, and Andrew Fulginiti, Policy Officer, Office of the Secretary, Maryland Department of Labor. Before we start today's webinar, I'd like to provide some information on the Maryland Chamber as well as some helpful housekeeping information. Founded in 1968, the Maryland Chamber of Commerce is the leading voice for business in the state. Grassroots advocacy is at the heart of what makes membership in the Maryland Chamber of Commerce so valuable. On behalf of our 4,500 members and federated partners, we advocate for legislation and policies that ensure sustained economic growth for Maryland. During today's call, we ask all participants to please keep your lines on mute and that you submit all questions using the chat feature located in the GoToMeeting dialog box. We will answer as many questions as time allows and follow up via email with any questions that we're unable to address during today's webinar. Additionally, if you have any questions following today's webinar, feel free to send them to mdchamber@mdchamber.org. And finally, GoToMeeting does offer webcam functionality. While our presenters will not enable their webcam, you may feel free to do so. Today's call will also be recorded and available on our website in the coming days. And with that, I will hand it over to Ashley.
Thanks very much, Marie. I really appreciate it. And I had a whole lengthy bio that I was going to share of the secretary and of Michael and Andrew, but I know that we're limited on time, and so I just want to say Secretary Scholes needs no introduction. She is no stranger to the Chamber and to many of the folks on this call, and wanted to echo the remarks that Christine provided a few minutes ago, in that the Chamber very much appreciates the partnership and the responsiveness that we've gotten from both the Department of Labor and Commerce throughout this ongoing crisis, and we are extremely grateful to have representatives from both the Secretary and Michael and Andrew here joining us today to try to dig into some of the resources and questions that are outstanding as it relates to the resources that have been released from the state. So with that, thank you, and I'll turn it over to the Secretary. And as Marie mentioned, please submit your questions in the chat box. We'll get to as many as we can, and if not, we'll follow up with you afterwards. So, Madam Secretary, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to as many businesses as we possibly can. Speaking for the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor, we've been fortunate to be able to be on several of these phone calls and webinars and being able to make sure that everybody gets the correct communication. So Christine, kudos to you and your team for setting this up for your members, because this is really important to be able to have this dialogue. So thank you. I just want to start out by saying that it has become very real to me that missions have changed a little bit over the last 3 weeks. Whereas we at the Department of Commerce, our mission has always been economic development and making sure that we are attracting and expanding businesses in the state. And now our mission is to be able to make sure that those businesses that we have here stay afloat. And we take that very, very seriously. The governor takes it very seriously. We understand that this is a very frightening time and uncertain time for everybody that's on this call. And we're in this together, and we're going to do everything we can, working with the business community, with our federal partners, with our local partners, our state agency partners, to be able to make sure that we can provide the best resources as possible. So I just wanted to start with that. Last Monday, on the 23rd, the governor announced, as you know, a $175 million business relief package. Of those funds, we were able to start up 3 new programs at the Department of Commerce, and I'm sure that everybody here knows about them, but I'll just update you a little bit. We did have the Maryland, the Emergency Relief Loan Fund, and that fund was funded with $75 million, and that's for 0% interest loans up to $50,000 to businesses with fewer than 50 employees. The loans can be used to cover the same sort of regular operating expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, And again, it is 0% interest for the first 12 months, then converts to a 36-month term loan with a 2% annual interest rate. The other program is the Emergency Relief Grant Fund, and that's offering up to $10,000 to businesses and nonprofits with 50 or fewer employees. The governor has put $50 million into that fund. And again, the same types of usage of those funds can be utilized, working capital to cover payroll, rent, mortgages, utilities, et cetera. The other thing that I want to say is that there's probably going to be a lot of questions as to the communication and how we are getting these funds out. That seems to be the most popular question. I want to say that we have thousands of grants and loans. In the first day alone, we had 4,000 requests for grants and loans. So we had to realize that the system that we had in place was nowhere near at the capacity in order for us to be able to process these types of loans quickly and easily for our constituents. So we developed a brand new IT system to be able to manage the program, and have just recently brought on additional staff from other state agencies to be able to help with the review and the processing of these. We've even done so much as to limit even further the processes that are needed for the review on these. And I want everybody to know that we are getting these funds out, and we're just asking for a little bit of patience as our state employees at the Department of Commerce and our sister agencies work around the clock, and I mean around the clock, in order to be able to make sure that we can get the funds where they need to go. Obviously, the third fund that we have is in response to the nationwide shortage of the medical and personal protective equipment that our doctors and our hospitals so badly need. We're all very aware of that and the reports that we hear on the news every single day to be able to protect our first responders. So Commerce has introduced a $5 million emergency relief manufacturing fund in order to incentivize our state's manufacturers to produce the equipment as face masks, ventilators, and all of the other equipment that's on our critical needs list, so that we can get those resources to the health industry and our first responders as quickly as possible. That application went live on our site last Friday, and we have received roughly about 44 applications for that. And this will incentivize the manufacturing community with up to $100,000 in a grant in order to be able to purchase new equipment for them to manage their current existing lines and to retrofit what they need to in order to be able to switch into a production of these types of necessary items, or to train employees. And those applications are being actively reviewed by an independent advisory team that has the skills and the necessary knowledge of that manufacturing world and what we can do to get started very quickly. I will say, Christine, and your team has been really very helpful in getting the information out about where to find this information. But for anybody on the call, you can go to Maryland Business Express. That's Googling Maryland Business Express, and there's complete information about the Department of Commerce programs, about all of our sister agency programs for businesses, and also the federal programs. And since you don't have somebody from the Small Business Administration on talking about their programs, just want to remind everybody that they can go today. The federal PPP program, as it's being called, is live today and going to a bank. And I understand that they're starting in the middle of the night. They were already getting slammed with applications at the local banks as well. And I will try to answer any of those questions about the federal programs, but it would probably be best to go to the website, and if you can't find the answers that you need, then to send an email to secretary.commerce@maryland.gov. That's secretary.commerce@maryland.gov. And with that, I will just wait to see if we have any questions at the end. And thank you all very much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Just one question that came in after your remarks, a question from one of our participants that asked, between the state and federal offerings, can businesses utilize programs that are being offered by the state of Maryland in addition to programs like the PPP that the federal government is promoting? Can they use both?
Yeah, yes. We do not have anything in our application process that asks if people are getting funds from a different source.
Okay.
And I was on a webinar yesterday with SBA, and I believe indicated the same. And I believe that there's probably some anticipation that some people will do both.
Terrific, thank you. And I think with that, we will pause there and turn it over to our friends Michael and Andrew at the Maryland Department of Labor for their presentation. And again, if you have questions that can be answered by either Commerce or Labor, please submit them through our chat feature and we'll keep plugging through them. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Ashley. This is Andrew Fulgeniti with the Maryland Department of Labor, and joining me as well as our Policy Director, Michael Harrison. We're happy to be here and thank the Chamber for putting this webinar together. We know, having, like the Secretary said, been on several of these, that there's a lot of good questions from businesses and employees. So I'll try and be brief and go through my presentation quickly. That way we can get to a lot of those good questions. All right, so obviously we are in uncharted waters. We are experiencing unemployment like never seen before. So we have at the Department of Labor implemented several new procedures that we're working really hard to be able to handle this influx of claims. And I'll go over those procedures and also touch on the expansion of unemployment benefits under the new Federal CARES Act. Some of the new procedures we're working on implementing and hoping is going to assist us and you as well, and a lot of Maryland workers get through and file claims if they're facing that new economic reality, is our call centers are experiencing a incredible backlog right now with the claims that we're receiving. So we have further extended our call center hours. We're now going to be open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. We've kind of implemented a gating procedure to hopefully streamline some of those calls. And all of this information I would like to say is you could find on our webpage. It's labor.maryland.gov. If you navigate to that page, there is an unemployment insurance link that I would encourage everyone go to. We have a wealth of information and resources up on our webpage detailing a lot of the concerns that people are experiencing, and I would encourage everyone to please navigate to that webpage prior to attempting to go through these call centers, hopefully reducing some of the backlog of calls. We also have, if you're in that situation and you need to file an unemployment insurance claim, you can utilize our online application. We've added several new servers to hopefully allow for more users to file online. We're encouraging people to use and file during off hours because our online application is available 24/7. We've also set up some shared email accounts. We're urging people that have more specific questions to please navigate to those email addresses, submit your inquiries, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. This way we're hoping to reduce some of the calls and leave the call centers open for people who are filing claims. Like I said, on our webpage, we've also worked really hard to put together some frequently asked question pages. These are very detailed FAQs. Any large amount of questions we're receiving, we're adding to those pages constantly. So again, I would encourage people to please use those resources available. We have a lot of information about how to file a claim, what's in the new CARES Act, what resources are available to employees, to employers, and all that type of information. Like I said, with the passage of the CARES Act, unemployment insurance benefits have been further extended, and I know that's something that a lot of people might have some questions on. So the federal program expanded. Basically, it created 3 new programs of unemployment insurance, and these are federal programs that the federal government is asking the states to implement. So The big one is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. This is a new unemployment insurance program. It's going to expand these UI benefits to people that typically were not eligible for state UI benefits. These are those self-employed individuals, independent contractors, people that worked in the gig economy, file their 1099s, or have like a limited work history. This is going to extend unemployment benefits to those individuals. In the state of Maryland, you're eligible for up to 26 weeks of UI benefits. And one of the other programs, the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program, extends those benefits for an additional 13 weeks. So now under this new Federal CARES Act, you're going to be eligible for up to 39 weeks of benefits. The third arm of the CARES Act unemployment expansion is the Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. This is a $600 per week benefit, and that's going to be on top of your state benefits. So this is for people receiving the full state benefits and people that are receiving partial benefits. They're going to be eligible for an additional $600 per week benefit due to the CARES Act. So like many states, and as I said, this is a federal program that the states are implementing. So the Department of Labor is eagerly we're awaiting some guidance from USDOL at this time, where we need to have some information about what type of information and documentation we're going to be required to collect for these new individuals, so we know how to verify wages and determine eligibility. Once we have that guidance from USDOL, we're hoping to have this new process, this new application and claims process up and running as soon as possible. And like I said, we are on our webpage. I want to encourage everyone who fits into this category, please go to our main unemployment insurance webpage. You'll see on that webpage this email updates box. And we're encouraging people to sign up for this email update. And as soon as those new processes are available and you're able to file a claim, we will contact you with that information and what type of information we're going to need to collect from you. So also, I would just touch on, we do have a program under our Division of Unemployment Insurance that is designed as an alternative to complete layoffs. This is our unemployment insurance work sharing program. So this is a program we're hoping to get out. I don't think it's a very well known program, so we're hoping to promote this to businesses. Obviously, we want to keep as many workers employed as possible. This program allows employers to retain their employees, reduce paid hours to assist them in keeping operations open, and it supplements those employees' lost wages due to the reduction in hours with partial unemployment insurance benefits. So you'll see there on the slide, we have a link to that work sharing program. We have a frequently asked questions page and a lot of details on our webpage about that program. We're also happy to answer some questions. I know we might have some about that program. Again, I just wanted to share the resources I referenced. We have a lot of good information. We have some designated call center numbers specifically for businesses, businesses that may be facing an economic reality where they're going to have to do a large-scale layoff. We have a bulk claims information page. Employers can call our unemployment bulk claims direct line, and they will be able to assist you with that process. And that prevents the individual employees from having to make individual claims that can all be handled by the employer. And again, the department is, not just our unemployment insurance division, but all of our divisions are still open and working with businesses to help them with their operations and those that are still operating. So we have set up some designated email addresses for all of our divisions to help businesses in this time of need. So we encourage you to please, if you have questions for any of those divisions, utilize these resources and we'll be happy to assist.
Great. Thank you very much, Andrew. Very much appreciate those resources. And I do have a couple of questions. I know that we're running low on time with the secretary, so I'm going to get through just a handful of these quickly. I know that the representatives from Department of Labor addressed this issue, but for you, Madam Secretary, one of our participants has asked about commerce options for those who are self-employed, independent contractors, or sole proprietorships, if there are particular programs you would steer those types of entities to.
At this point in time, I would steer them towards the federal programs that were announced through the CARES Act, and we have them all listed on our website, and those are great resources. The two programs that we have right now that were set up last week are not for independent contractors, but we have teams of people that can help to connect with some of those programs that may be helpful and beneficial.
Great, thank you very much. And another commerce-related question, one of our participants asked about the Maryland Emergency Relief Loan Fund, and if you had any indication on whether at some future point those would be forgiven or any part of them would be forgiven.
That'll have to be a question that we take on later.
Okay.
At this point in time, it was put up as a repayable loan, but that will be a policy decision that can be made later.
Terrific, thank you very much. And then another, I see, thank you, Michael, for helping answer some of our questions here in the chat box. Another question for, I think this would be for our friends from the Department of Labor. There's a question here that they were told to utilize the work-share program. An employer had to elect this option when signing up for their business insurance. Is this true, or is work-share available to any business at this time?
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa, for that question. Workshare can be signed up anytime. We're taking applications now. I've heard we've got roughly 50 businesses signed up. So the Workshare program is a kind of a payroll protection program for businesses with employers still on payroll. You can sign up for the Workshare program, and if your employee hours and wages are cut by a minimum of 20% up to a maximum of 50%, they can receive that equivalent amount in unemployment insurance to offset the lost wages. But you have to sign up as a Workshare employer. And if you Google Maryland Department of Labor Workshare program, it'll take you to our website. There's a lot of frequently asked questions for employers and employees, and an application that you can submit to the Office of Unemployment Insurance.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. There is a question here, and I guess this would be a commerce question, but I'm not sure that there's probably a good answer on this yet, but one of our participants has asked if there is any read on the timeline of when loans will be approved and available, and I'm guessing that, we have different timelines depending on different programs, but Madam Secretary, if you had any indication on timeline that you could provide, I think that's what they're asking for.
Sure, I can say that it's revolving. So as we speak, there are teams of reviewers that are going through the thousands of loans and grants that have come in. So obviously it will take a period of time to get to all of them. However, there are individuals that applied to the first portal when the application just went through. And so for those individuals, you will be able to track the process of yours as soon as everything gets uploaded today into the new system. Those that applied after we started the new database have already received an email notification. So some people are able to track their applications at this point in time. So if you will get a notification from our office from One Stop telling you to go in and register under your email and everything how you had put in your original applications, and you will be able to track where you are in the process. And that's going to be very helpful now that we have been able to merge everything over into the new system. But that has not stopped us from reviewing other loans and grants as well. So they've been reviewing as we've been going along, but you'll be able to see where you are in the process.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Another question here for our friends from the Department of Labor. Will the work-share unemployment insurance be held against the employer and affect their rates for 2021? Is there any indication or read on that question?
Yeah, I was just answering that.
Okay.
Work-share is 100% federally funded because Maryland already has a work-share program. So the CARES Act set aside, I think, like $100 million for states to fund the work-share program. So it's paid for by the federal government. It will not impact employer tax rates if they are a work-share partner in 2021.
Terrific, thank you. This is a question from one of our participants, and I know the answer to this at the federal level is that nonprofits that are organized as 501c3s are eligible for the federal programs, the Paycheck Protection Program in particular. Madam Secretary, are nonprofits eligible for the state programs?
Nonprofits are eligible for the grant program as long as they have less than $5 million in revenues per year. And I apologize, but I have to jump on a call with the governor and our municipal leaders. And if I don't jump on now, then I'm going to get in trouble. So I apologize for that.
Thank you very much. We very much appreciate your time and your leadership, and we look forward to continued engagement with you and your staff moving forward.
If you have additional questions that you want to send to the department, please feel free to send them to our team. And we're happy to be able to get all of that and all the answers out to the chamber members. And I really so much appreciate your time and wish you all the very best.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Appreciate it. For those of you who are left on the call, we did allot a half an hour for our webinar today, recognizing the Secretary's schedule. So we've gotten through a bulk of these questions. I'm taking notes to try to follow up on the rest of them. I did want to say that a lot of the questions that are coming through that are specific to the federal program, the Paycheck Protection Program, et cetera, we do have plans for additional programming in the next week and the week after that's going to build out information on those programs as we learn more, as they come online, and we learn more about the challenges and the resources that employers need to be able to access those funds. So stay tuned for additional programming coming from the chamber. Again, the webinar will be recorded, and this recording and the information contained within it will be available to folks following the call. I would reference again the email address that the Secretary mentioned, secretary@commerce.gov, for other questions that you have that have not yet been answered. And of course, please always feel free to reach out to the chamber, any member of our staff, with specific things that we can do to get you answers to your questions quickly. We are on call and ready to do that. And with that, I would just say thank you to Michael and to Andrew from the Department of Labor for your partnership, and of course to the Secretary for her time. And we look forward to connecting with all of you again soon.
Thank you.